Chicago's Museum of Science and Industry is one of the city's biggest tourist attractions today, but before it became the museum it is, it gained a long, storied history that started at the end of the 19th century. Originally called the Palace of Fine Arts and located on the lagoons of the South Side's Jackson Park, the building was constructed in 1893 for Chicago's Columbian Exposition. The museum was designed by Charles B. Atwood for the firm of Daniel H. Burnham. Burnham's firm was responsible for the Beaux-Arts, neoclassical, white city look of the exposition, and Atwood himself designed several of its great buildings. With its perfect symmetry, grand staircase, and classical adornments, the Palace of Fine Arts is a prime example of the Beaux-Arts style. Of its several classical references, one of the most prominent is its set of caryatids, or columns sculpted to look like women. You may recognize them. Their sculptor, Henry Herring, made them nearly identical to the caryatids on the porch of the Erechtheion in Athens' Acropolis. They flank the grand entrance, standing to welcome visitors. The caryatids aren't the only Acropolis copycat, though. On the building's west wall, Herring also made metopes, or sculptural panels that recalled those of the Parthenon. They specifically mimic the metopes of the monument's south wall, and all depict a mythological battle between the Lapiths and the Centaurs. Finally, Herring also created attic women who, appropriately, stand just under the roof on all sides of the building. Each attic woman represents some large concept. North, south, east, and west, along with earth, water, fire, and air, are all present. Just as the Columbia Basin mirrors the building's every detail, the Palace of Fine Arts not only reflected the relics of antiquity, but also Chicago's great yearning for the highest levels of culture and history. By creating grandiose references to ancient art, the buildings of the Columbian Exposition attempted to mythologize the still relatively young city of Chicago as a part of a venerated tradition. In 1921, after a brief stint as the Field Museum of Natural History, the palace was all but crumbling. Thus, a debate was sparked over its worth and importance to the city. A pamphlet published by the Committee for the Building's Restoration read that the Fine Arts building in Chicago is surpassed only by the Parthenon at Athens, which is considered the most beautiful building in the world, although it is now in ruins. America, in fact Chicago, possesses the world's second greatest architectural monument of the classical style. Several ideas were proposed for the building's next use, including a school, galleries, a convention center, or warehousing. Finally, with an inspired vision for a museum of industrial science and backed by the millions he could personally put towards the project, famed entrepreneur and Sears Roebuck executive Julian Rosenwald won over the Restoration Committee. Renovations on the museum commenced in 1929 and would be completed just in time for Chicago's second attempt to capture the world's attention, the Century of Progress exhibition in 1933. In many ways, the Century of Progress was a desperate attempt to recover Chicago from the Great Depression and its reputation as a city filled with violence and corruption by gangs. The Museum of Science and Industry, with its building's repeated reuse and long-sought renovation, now stands as a relic of multiple layers of the past, not just as a replica of antiquity, and not just as a memory of the expositions, but perhaps even more powerfully, as a symbol of the ups and downs of Chicago's history and the city's persistence to be great, even when, like the Fine Arts building, it seemed to be crumbling.